3 months ago, I discovered my parents had excluded me from their will, and that revelation changed everything. I stopped sending them the thousands of dollars I'd been providing monthly. Predictably, they didn't take it well and resorted to online harassment, unaware that I was prepared to take far stronger measures. I used to feel uncertain about my place in the family, but that insecurity vanished the moment I found their will. This all unfolded during a visit to what was legally their home. I say legally because, while their names were on the deed, I was the one covering the mortgage, utilities, groceries, and repairs. At the time, I didn't mind. I was happy to help. I didn't even resent my brother, Ethan, for contributing absolutely nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. Ethan was jobless with no responsibilities whatsoever. I recall one instance when I just stocked their fridge with groceries for the week, and he casually asked if I could cook dinner for them too. He just lounged around, expecting handouts without lifting a finger. I wanted to be a supportive older brother, but my generosity had its limits. Everything changed when I stumbled across something shocking. While organizing some of my father's paperwork, I noticed a folder labeled Estate and Testament. Typically, I respect boundaries, but curiosity got the better of me. After all, I'd been keeping their household afloat. It wasn't unreasonable to be curious about their future plans, was it? So I opened the folder, and what I read hit me like a punch to the gut. Everything, the house, their savings, their belongings, was bequeathed to Ethan. To be fair, I wasn't entirely left out. Buried in fine print at the bottom was a vague line about loving both their sons equally. I stood there stunned, the words blurring as my hands shook with a mix of rage and betrayal. I'd poured my heart, my savings, and my time into supporting them, all to mend my own sense of family, only to learn they'd planned a future where I got nothing. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen, but eventually my father noticed I'd stopped working. "Hey, James, what's holding you up?" he called, stepping into the room. I didn't bother concealing the document. Instead, I held it up and locked eyes with him. "So this is how it is," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Everything to Ethan after all I've done?" I expected some hint of remorse, but he just sighed, rubbing his forehead as if I were the unreasonable one. "James, it's not what you're thinking." "Really?" I shot back. He looked uneasy but offered only, "It's complex." That was it. No apology, no real explanation, just a flimsy excuse and an expectant stare, as if I'd just nod and go back to being their financial lifeline. I should have walked out then, but I wanted to hear from my mother too, so I called her in. When she saw the will in my hands, her reaction mirrored his, though she at least tried to feign regret. "James, honey, you don't need an inheritance," she said, her tone patronizing as if she were doing me a favor. "You're doing so well for yourself. Ethan struggles. We just want to make sure he's taken care of." They weren't even pretending otherwise. They'd knowingly chosen to reward Ethan's laziness with everything. I took a deep breath, set the will down, and said, "I get it. Good to know where I stand." Then I walked out, ignoring their protests as I shut the door behind me. For the first time in years, I let them fend for themselves. If something broke, they could fix it. If they needed groceries, they could buy them. And when the mortgage bill arrived, I wasn't paying it. The silence lasted about 2 weeks. At first, I think they thought I was just sulking and would come around. But as the days passed without contact, or more importantly, without money, their tone shifted. Then one day, my phone pinged. A text from my dad. "Property taxes are due." No greeting, no apology, no acknowledgement of what had happened. Just a cold demand, as if I were still their personal ATM. I laughed. They genuinely believed they could just ask for cash like nothing had changed. I should have stopped supporting them years ago. My money belonged elsewhere. The funny thing is, Ethan thought he'd won, and my parents thought they could keep treating me like this while I'd continue footing their bills. They didn't realize I was done. I replied, "I'm sure Ethan can cover it since the house is his." Within 5 minutes, my mom called. I didn't answer. Then came another text. "James, don't be like this. We need to talk." Now they wanted to talk. Now that their bills were piling up and reality was hitting, I waited an hour before responding. "Nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Deal with it." I thought that would end it for the day. I'd made my stance clear and I felt no guilt. But then Ethan jumped in. His message arrived that night, and the second I saw his name, I braced for something infuriating. Sure enough, it was pure entitlement. "Bro, why are you acting like this? It's not a big deal. Just help them out like always." I nearly laughed. Not a big deal. He was acting like I had no right to be upset. I shot back, "Nah, you've got it handled since you're the golden child." His reply, "Seriously, you're mad about the will? Grow up, man, it's just money." just money. Now that it was his to inherit, it was suddenly no big deal. The hypocrisy was unreal. I responded, "Then you won't mind using that money to pay the mortgage, right?" Silence. A few minutes later, my mom texted again, pulling out all the guilt trip stops. "James, we're your parents. Family helps each other. We did so much for you growing up, and now you're abandoning us." I had to breathe deeply to keep from smashing my phone. Abandoning them? I'd spent years ensuring they never struggled while they coddled Ethan and rewarded his freeloading. Now that they faced consequences, I was the bad guy. I wasn't buying it. I replied, "You made it clear I'm not really family when you left me out of the will. Let Ethan step up." I could picture my mom's theatrical gasp. She always played the victim, even when she was wrong. Then came another text from my dad, which pushed me over the edge. "We're not asking for much, just enough for the mortgage for a few months until we figure things out. Don't be selfish." Selfish? I'd been bailing them out for years, sacrificing my own savings, time, and energy to make their lives easier. I'd done everything a good son could, and they repaid me by cutting me out. Now, when I finally stood up for myself, I was selfish. I clenched my teeth and typed, "I'm done." Then I muted my phone. They'd made their choice, and now they'd live with it. The silence lasted a day. I knew they wouldn't give up easily, but I wasn't prepared for what came next. The following morning, I got a notification. A bank transfer request from my mom for $3,500. I stared at it, half laughing at the nerve. No message, no explanation, just a shameless demand for the exact amount of their overdue mortgage. They weren't even asking anymore. They just assumed I'd cave. I declined it instantly. Within minutes, my mom called. I ignored it. Then a text, "James, I know you saw the request. Why did you decline it?" I took my time responding. "Because it's not my problem, ask Ethan." Another call, ignored. Another text, "We'll lose the house if you don't help." Oh, now it was a crisis. After years of treating me like a cash machine, they were finally facing consequences. I replied, "Maybe you should have thought about that before deciding I didn't matter." Seconds later, my dad texted, "You're really going to let your parents end up homeless?" I laughed out loud. The manipulation was so blatant it was almost funny. They weren't destitute. They just didn't want to dip into their own savings because they were used to me covering everything. I ignored them for the rest of the day. That night, Ethan texted, "Bro, just send the money. You're blowing this out of proportion." I clenched my jaw. This entitled leech thought he could lecture me. I shot back, "You mean the money you're inheriting? Why don't you send it?" His reply came fast, "You know I don't have that kind of cash right now." Oh, so now it was about affordability. He was fine with me draining my savings, but when it was his turn, he had nothing. I responded, "Then figure it out, bro. You're the one who benefits." No reply. I went to bed feeling oddly calm, like I'd finally broken free from years of manipulation. But the next day, things escalated. I was at work when my apartment's front desk called. "Hey, James, your parents are here." I nearly dropped my phone. "What?" The receptionist hesitated. "They say it's urgent and you're ignoring them." They'd shown up at my home because I stopped paying their bills. I pinched my nose, trying to stay calm. "Don't let them up, I'm not expecting them." An awkward pause. "They're being pretty persistent." I gritted my teeth. "I don't care. They need to leave." I hung up and immediately my mom texted, "We're downstairs, let us in." No question, no courtesy, just another demand. Another text, "James, we're not leaving until you talk to us." I exhaled sharply, grabbed my keys, and headed downstairs, furious. I wasn't scared, I was enraged. The audacity of them showing up, uninvited, demanding money like I was their personal vault, without even a pretense of an apology, just a full-on ambush. They thought they could bully me into submission. I swung the door open, and there they were. Mom, Dad, and of course Ethan, standing together like they were staging an intervention. Mom had her arms crossed, her classic disappointed parent face on. Dad stood stiffly, hands in his pockets, radiating irritation and entitlement. And Ethan? The freeloader looked bored, like this was just a minor inconvenience for him. The second Mom saw me, she launched into drama mode. "James, finally, we need to talk." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "No, you need to leave." She blinked, stunned, as if she couldn't process my words. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," I said, my voice steady but firm. "You don't show up at my home demanding money. That's absurd." Dad scoffed. "Are you really going to let us lose our home over some petty grudge?" I gave a cold laugh. "Petty? You mean finding out I was good enough to pay your bills but not good enough for your will? That grudge," Mom gasped, clutching her chest like I'd struck her. "James, that's unfair. We did what we thought was best for the family." I tilted my head. "Best for the family? You mean best for Ethan? Just admit it." Silence. A heavy, telling silence. Ethan, who'd been quiet, finally spoke. "Look, man, I don't even want to be part of this. I didn't ask for anything." I turned on him, letting loose. "No, you just take everything handed to you. You're 32, Ethan. Get a job." His face flushed. "Bro, what the hell?" I stepped closer. "You want to inherit the house, act like an owner, want to be the favorite, start paying their bills. I'm done being your bank." Ethan looked away, suddenly fascinated by the ground. Mom tried her guilt trip again. "James, he's your brother," I nodded. "Yeah, and I've supported him longer than you ever have." Dad's face darkened. "You're being selfish." I laughed, genuinely amused. "That's rich coming from you. You decided Ethan gets everything and I get nothing. Now that you have to face the consequences, you're trying to guilt me into fixing it. Not happening." Mom's voice turned cold. "We thought you'd be mature about this." I raised an eyebrow. "Mature? You mean quietly accept being betrayed and keep paying your bills? That's what you expected?" Dad stepped forward, trying to intimidate me like when I was a kid. "James, we raised you, fed you, clothed you, gave you everything. The least you can do is help us now." I met his gaze. "I already did for years, and you repaid me by cutting me out." Mom's lip quivered. "We thought you'd understand." I shook my head. "Oh, I understand. I was never really family, just a paycheck." Silence again, thick, undeniable silence. I turned to Ethan, still avoiding eye contact. "And you? What's your excuse? You've had years to grow up, to contribute, to build something, but you didn't, because you knew they'd enable you. And when they're gone, you expected me to take over, didn't you?" Ethan opened his mouth, then shut it. Nothing, he had nothing to say. Mom tried one last guilt trip. "James, we're family. Family helps each other." I stared at her for a long moment. "Exactly, so why didn't you help me?" She froze, no answer, no defense. I exhaled, feeling lighter than I had in years. "We're done here." I turned, walked back inside, and shut the door. Before I reached my couch, my phone buzzed. "Dad, after all we've done, you're really abandoning us." I smirked, typing, "No, you abandoned me." "I'm just accepting it." I sent it, then blocked their numbers. But I didn't expect that blocking them would make things worse. Less than a day later, I noticed posts on social media. My parents weren't tech experts, but they knew how to air their grievances online when they felt justified. At first, I thought it was just their usual dramatics. Publicly airing family issues was their style. But as I read their posts, I realized this was beyond just me refusing to pay their bills. Their posts were framed as family gratitude, but were thinly veiled attacks on me. Mom posted about raising a son who turned out selfish, adding that real family helps no matter what. Friends commented, calling me ungrateful and detached from family values. Then Dad posted, "True family doesn't abandon you in tough times. We gave everything for our kids, and this is our thanks. My son, who should be supporting us in our later years, has chosen to turn his back." He tagged me, ending with a snide, "Hope you're proud." But Ethan's post was the final straw. He shared a sanctimonious rant. "Some people think family is just about money. They don't understand that family is about love and sacrifice. I'd do anything for my parents, but some people are too wrapped up in themselves to see that. True love means helping those who raised you. I wish certain people understood what family really means. I'm grateful for my parents and everything they've done." That was it, my limit. I stared at the screen, incredulous. How had it come to this? They'd flipped the narrative, painting me as the selfish son who refused to support his devoted parents. I'd always been the responsible one, the one who never complained, who gave everything. Yet they'd convinced themselves they were right and were now smearing me publicly. I didn't respond right away. I stepped back, calmed myself, and waited hours to ensure I wasn't acting out of anger. But the more I thought, the clearer it became. I couldn't let them rewrite the truth. So I opened my social media account, used only for close friends and real family, and wrote a detailed post. I wasn't here to play their game or trade jabs. I wanted the truth out there. Here's what I wrote. "I've stayed quiet, but I can't anymore. My family has been spreading lies about me online, painting me as the bad guy, the selfish son who won't help his parents. Here's the truth. I've supported my family for years. Since my first job, I've paid their bills, bought their groceries, and kept their home running. But there's a limit to giving without respect. For years, I've watched my parents prioritize Ethan, giving him everything, the house, the money, their attention, while expecting me to keep funding their lives. Some might call that family dynamics, but family should be mutual. When I found out my parents left everything to Ethan in their will, I realized how one-sided this has been. They didn't even consider me. I was only valued when they needed something. I've paid for their vacations, their bills, their taxes. For what? To be treated as a backup plan? I'm done. I'm not just a wallet to tap into. I'm a person who deserves respect. As for Ethan, it's time he steps up. He's 32 and has never held a real job. My parents enabled him, so it's no surprise he's the favorite. But now he needs to take responsibility. To those caught up in this drama and siding with my parents, know there's another side. Family matters, but so does mutual respect. I've given enough and I won't apologize for choosing myself. To my parents, I wish you well, but I'm no longer your doormat. Posting it felt like a weight lifted. For the first time, I was publicly exposing how my family had used me, how they expected me to fix their problems without ever valuing me. The response was immediate. Friends, cousins, and even distant relatives messaged me with support, shocked at what I'd been through. It felt freeing to finally have the truth out there, no longer buried under guilt and manipulation. Then came the backlash. My parents and Ethan lost it. Ethan messaged, "You're a traitor airing our private business. You have no respect for family." Dad called, yelling, "You've ruined everything, James. You'll regret this. You'll regret turning your back on your family." But I didn't regret it, not for a second. I blocked them entirely. I was done. As the days passed, I felt lighter. I was free from their toxic control, free from being treated as less than. I was done solving their problems. For the first time, I could live on my terms. I don't feel guilty for cutting them off. I deserved better then, and I deserve better now. Going forward, I'm surrounding myself with people who value me for me, not for what I can give them. It's time to move on for good.